Rink Cave Nightmare. On May 25, 2003, Chris Molino prepared for a simple family cave trip under a clear sky. At 36, he trusted his experience exploring Washington's lava tubes to keep them safe. He had pre-programmed his GPS, packed...
Why is this the first place that people decide to go to? Dad, can we go to Dave & Buster's? We're going in the fucking caves, son. Deal with it.
light gear and memorized the cave layout from an online forum. Their minivan rattled up a Forest Service road toward the isolated entrance. Chris parked near a faint trail and led his wife and 3 children into the pine woods. They reached a sinkhole opening, a dark scar in the earth.
Why would you bring this, why would you bring danger to your family? Such an odd thing.
Colder than the surrounding air. Chris hesitated, uncertain if it matched the map, but decided it was close enough. He strapped on his helmet, clicked on his headlamp, slipped his car keys into his pocket, and told Michelle he would scout ahead. The cave swallowed him quickly, the temperature dropping with every step. Roughly 100 feet in.
This guy makes over $100,000 a year, by the way, has a nice car, a nice house, and he does this. Remember that.
He encountered a dead end with only a tight crawl space to the right. Comparing it to the map under his headlamp, Chris decided this was the correct path.
What a
he dropped to
goofball.
his knees, pushed his fanny pack ahead, and crawled through the narrow opening. Emerging into a larger passage, he turned left, trusting it would lead to the main chamber. The passage stretched longer than expected, uneven.
So dumb.
And silent except for his boots scraping rock. Eventually, he reached a collapsed section of ceiling, unfamiliar and not indicated on his map. Picking his way through loose boulders, Chris pushed forward, assuming he was close to the main entrance. Instead, he found another collapse, a dirt and stone plug blocking any sign of daylight. A heavy chill set in his chest as he realized the entrance was gone. Checking his watch, Chris saw he had been underground much longer than planned. He turned around, trying to backtrack toward the original crawlway. After walking for several minutes, he found another identical collapse, sealing him off again. To test the passage, Chris scratched an X into the dirt at his feet. 400 paces later, he returned to the same X, completing
Oh my gosh. Imagine that.
a full circle without realizing it. Sweat chilled against
How does that happen?
his skin as he understood he was trapped in a looping passage. He moved systematically along the walls, searching for any hidden crawlway or opening. Each footstep scraped dust from the walls, his gloved hands feeling only unbroken stone. The weight of the car keys in his pocket reminded him that his family was stranded without him. Time passed without meaning, broken only by the dwindling strength.
We'll never know.
Chris tore pieces of his cave map and dropped them at landmarks, trying to prevent walking in circles. He completed another full circuit, ending back where he started, no closer to escape. His breathing turned fast.
How does anybody know this is exactly what happened, by the way? I mean, I assume that they kind of pieced it together. No pun intended, by the way, with the map. Pieced it together, how he died, but this is wild work.
Naturally in the tight space.
Sucks.
The air grew thick, tasting metallic, every breath scraping against the dryness of his throat. 5 hours underground blurred his sense of direction until the cave walls became meaningless repetitions. The ground beneath him tilted in his perception, rocks seeming to shift with every labored step. Muscles in his legs cramped as he forced himself to keep moving around the endless loop. The headlamp flickered slightly, sending bolts of panic through his exhausted mind. Calling out only fed the silence, the cave swallowing sound without mercy. At one point, he fell to his knees, too dizzy to stay upright.
How do you know he fell to his knees?
Seeping into his bones. He dug weakly at the dirt floor with his fingers, trying to find anything he had missed. Pain bloomed in his knees and palms, raw from constant crawling and scraping against stone. Chris forced himself upright again, staggering back toward the original collapse plug. Staying low to the ground, he ran his hands carefully along the base of the wall. A slight shadow break caught his eye, hidden beneath a jut of rock. He crouched lower, sweeping his headlamp beam until he found a barely visible crawlway. He dropped flat and squeezed into the opening, scraping his elbows raw against the tight stone. After an agonizing push, he recognized the original entrance passage ahead. Chris stumbled out into the burning brightness of late afternoon, blinking blindly at the sun.
He got out?
Boy Scout night.
That's crazy.
Nightmare. On December
Imagine not getting out of there.
2003, 8 boys from the San Antonio Boy Village and 2 counselors headed
I wonder if he told his wife, like, he was freaking the fuck out.
Toward Boy Scout Cave in...
He's like, you didn't hear me? You didn't hear me screaming? God, it's all your fault. You didn't hear me screaming for you in there? Jeez.
Florida. Among the boys were 15-year-old Michael Shiro and 16-year-old Javik Henderson, both eager for adventure.
Such a dumb thing to do, go in caves. Why?
Counselors, citing their size, chose to remain outside the cave, unaware of the dangers ahead. Boy Scout Cave was infamous for its dry, tight, twisting passages, yet was considered stable and safe.
Yeah, we know of this cave, but we're kind of unaware
flashlights between them.
of how
As they moved deeper, the temperature settled at a cool 72 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, we know
and
of
the
this
silence
cave.
Thickened
We're
around
just
them.
unaware
One counselor lit a small
of why
fire
people
near
die
the
in it.
entrance to stay warm,
Like, what?
unaware it could endanger the boys inside. Michael and Henderson led the group confidently into the depths, navigating narrow turns with growing tension. Claustrophobia began to weigh on them as the cave's darkness pressed from all directions. An hour in, the group reached a difficult section ominously known as the hairpin curve. Without adult guidance, the boys hesitated. Then, Michael chose to push ahead alone. The hairpin curve was a tight, sharp bend in the cave, barely passable by a single body. Michael wriggled through the curve, scraping his body on the jagged limestone walls. Henderson followed,
like
twisting his body painfully to navigate.
Would be so mad at myself.
The brutal angle. Midway through, Henderson became hopelessly stuck, unable to move forward or back. His breathing quickened as sharp rocks pressed into his ribs, the walls unrelenting and cold. Michael noticed his friend's struggle and crawled back, wedging himself into the jagged slit. The confined space turned violent. Skin scraped, limbs cramped, and panic rising. Henderson cried out in pain as Michael desperately pushed and pulled, trying to free him. Their energy drained quickly in the cramped, unmoving position against the frigid limestone. Michael's vision blurred and muscles weakened until he collapsed, unconscious in the tight passage. Trapped and alone, Henderson screamed for help, his voice bouncing hollowly through the rock. Back in the wider tunnel, the rest of the boys panicked as their flashlights began to flicker. Fear spread that the
They need to fire whoever was in charge of putting kids in this.
Counselor's fire was depleting their oxygen, feeding hysteria. Realizing they couldn't help, the boys made the wrenching decision to leave their friends behind. They crawled frantically toward the surface, the weight of guilt and fear pressing harder than the cave. Outside, the counselors were caught off guard by the breathless, tear-streaked.
Why are the counselors outside sitting by the campfire and the kids are in the... like, what? Why are the kids in the cave alone?
Boys. One counselor doused the fire in horror, while the other called emergency services immediately. Within an hour, experienced cave rescue teams arrived at the darkened entrance. The rescuers prepared carefully, knowing Boy Scout Cave's bottlenecks would make the operation grueling. Inside, they found the remaining boys huddled, terrified, convinced they had nearly suffocated. Tests revealed the air was safe. The suffocation had been psychological, panic-induced, but Henderson and Michael were still deep in the cave, alone and rapidly deteriorating. Equipped with chisels, harnesses, and grit, rescuers began crawling through the narrow labyrinth. At the hairpin curve, they found Henderson conscious but fading, his voice weak and body trembling. Michael lay slumped ahead of him, cold and unresponsive, his breath shallow. The rescuers prioritized Henderson, chiseling slowly to widen the slit trapping him. Every strike echoed like a heartbeat through the rock, urgency mounting with each delay. After over an hour, Henderson was freed, crying.
Yikes. I'm suing the campgrounds, by the way. Whoever, signed... You guys are gonna have so much fun.
Frozen, wrapped in a thermal blanket, he was carefully maneuvered out of the cave by exhausted rescuers. Michael's condition was worse, and every minute meant less chance of survival.
You sure about that guy?
With frenzied care, carving space and hauling his body with trembling hands. 2 hours after reaching him, they finally pulled Michael free, his skin ice cold, pulse barely present. Emergency medics were waiting at the surface as the boys were lifted from the cave's mouth. Both were
see how soon you get back to the caves.
Severe hypothermia and exhaustion. Michael remained unconscious for nearly 24 hours, suspended between life and death. In the aftermath, it was clear that a lack of planning, gear, and adult presence nearly ended in tragedy. Boy Scout Cave was silent once more, but its narrow throat would forever echo with the screams of that day.
Sue whoever was in charge.
Nightmare.
Oh my God! Look at this guy.
Keyhole Cave
that guy is not having fun.
On the morning of July 18th, 1998, Craig Douglas, his sister Jessica, and friends Buster Miller and Jennifer Russell arrived at the entrance of Keyhole Cave C. The cave sat in a wooded area, quiet and undisturbed, a familiar location from a previous trip where they'd turned back early. Their goal this time was to reach the bottom, 113 feet below the surface.
We gotta reach the bottom. What's gonna be down there?
370 feet long and known for tight twisting and low ceiling passages that require crawling and squeezing. At the very end is a 1-foot-high crawl leading to into an 8-foot vertical pit.
So this is the thing. How do you know whether you should go head first or like
entered the cave.
backwards?
Inside, the air cooled, sound dulled, and the environment narrowed to rock, darkness,
That would
and
be
silence.
so
For several hours,
lame.
they made consistent progress through narrow, irregular tunnels.
I guess
Physical
obviously
effort
you
increased
have
as
to
they
go head
contorted
first.
through body-width passages that scraped skin and taxed muscles. At the entrance
there's
to
no-
Paul's
like, imagine
pipe,
there's
they
no way
paused,
for you to, like,
where it was the tightest
get up and
section
turn
ahead.
around, you
Craig
know?
took the
There's
lead,
none of that.
flattening
You have to,
himself
like,
and
push
crawling
yourself
forward
back,
through the
and imagine if,
1-foot
like, the
high tube.
angle
The
is too
stone pressed
fucked.
into his ribs,
Or you can't
shoulders,
push
and
yourself,
hips
like,
as he
nah,
advanced
nah.
using only his legs. Reaching the
Nah.
lip of the pit, he extended his legs downward, searching for the
Nah,
edge with his
we're not
boots.
doing that.
His left foot caught between rocks, pinched and immobile. As he shifted to free it, his right knee jammed between 2 slabs of bedrock. A sudden sharp pressure locked his knee, immediate, intense, and unrelenting. He tried to reverse.
How does this guy know about all like the joint pains? He's like, then his muscle started hurting. Then his knee started hurting. How do you know that?
Or slide forward, but
Did you
any
ask
movement
him?
increased the compression on the joint. Craig's upper body was angled downward toward the pit, supported
See,
only
I
by
just
his trapped
fell.
leg. He began to sweat and breathe harder as each attempt worsened the pain and deepened his entrapment. Jessica called out from
Ouch.
behind, realizing something was wrong when he stopped responding clearly. Buster tried to reach him, but could only get close enough to see the limited space and Craig's compromised position. They attempted to twist Craig's torso and reposition his leg, but there was
Holy.
no room for leverage. His leg became increasingly swollen, pressure building against the trapped knee and cutting off circulation. Craig adjusted his torso just enough to avoid sliding completely into the pit. Jennifer was sent back through the cave to call for help, while Jessica and Buster stayed to support Craig. To stop his body from slumping further, they wedged clothing beneath him as makeshift padding. The first rescuers arrived after 5 hours and crawled into position
This
to
is
assess
wild
his condition.
work.
They noted visible swelling, limited movement, and restricted blood
feet
flow to the leg.
swelling.
Multiple rescue attempts were made using pulling, repositioning, and lubricants.
Yeah,
like
don't
water
ever
and
just do this
vegetable
shit.
oil.
Just
None of the attempts
stay out of
reduced
the caves.
compression on
Leave
Craig's
that
knee.
shit
As time passed,
for the
cold
nature.
stone beneath him began to sap his body.
Leave the
His
caves for the
shivering
animals,
increased,
bro.
And
Like,
signs of early hypothermia
we're not
began to
cavemen
appear.
anymore.
Rescuers wrapped him in a space blanket and used a heat gun powered by an electric line run from the surface. The cold was temporarily stabilized, but oxygen levels began to drop. At 16.9% oxygen, breathing became more difficult for both Craig and the rescue workers. A ventilation system was constructed, pumping fresh air through hoses into the confined space. With oxygen stabilized, focus returned to freeing Craig's leg. By now, more
Let's
than
give you
30
guys
hours
some
had passed
oxygen.
since he became trapped.
That's kinda
Circulation
clutch.
was nearly gone in the
That's
leg,
not gonna
and
help the
sensation had
circulation of his
diminished
blood.
into constant, severe throbbing. Rescue teams considered
His heart's
breaking
gonna
the
start
leg as a
working
last
harder,
resort,
and then
but
that's what's
opted
gonna
instead
kill
to
him.
chisel the surrounding rock. Air chisels and hand drills were used to remove material
Air
from around
chisel?
the
What
jammed
the
knee.
hell is an
Only
air
one
chisel?
person could work at a time due to the confined space of Paul's pipe. Drilling continued in shifts, reducing the rock in millimeter increments.
Whoa.
Craig's body temperature dropped again, and his physical responses slowed. He could
Dude,
no
I
longer
would be
speak and
at
required constant
home
prompting to remain conscious. After
chilling,
enough
dude.
rock had been removed,
After this,
rescuers
I wouldn't
passed the
leave the
drill to
crib.
Craig for the final section they couldn't reach. With limited
wouldn't
strength
leave
and
the crib.
mobility, Craig managed to apply the drill to the remaining obstruction. His body shook with effort as
gotta drill
vibrations
himself.
shot through his arms, spine, and skull.
so
Eventually,
bad
the
for
rock
even
shifted,
laughing.
and with one last pull, his leg came free. It was 8:30 p.m. on Sunday, over 30 hours after he became trapped. The leg was severely damaged, discolored, and unable to bear weight.
Yikes.
The team supported Craig as he began the long crawl out, inching his way through the same passages. Extraction took over 8 hours due to Craig's condition and the cave's structure. At 9:15 a.m. on Monday, he emerged at the surface after 43 hours underground. He was transported
43
immediately to a
hours?
hospital where emergency surgery was performed on his leg. Recovery would take months with lasting
Oh my
damage, but his
gosh.
life was preserved. The rock had held him for nearly 2 days.
This could have
and
all
only
been
let go after
this could have all been avoided if he stayed home and just hopped in Discord. Right? This could have all been avoided if he stayed home, hopped in Discord, you know, pizza, don't do anything else, play the game. But he went into the cave.